What's going on, guys? James here. Hope everybody's doing well today. So I wanted to share with you guys a new sort of series, like you could call it, or a new segment on my channel that I want to start going into, sort of honoring and recognizing some of the guitar players who have had a great impact and influence on me and my playing, and just some of my favorite players. And I'm going to call it Solos and Riffs, where I'll be going around and choosing my top 5 favorite riffs and top 5 favorite solos played by that guitar player in any sort of, on any album they may have played on or not. So a few ground rules I laid out for myself with this first one. As you couldn't tell by the title of the video, today we're going to be taking a look at John Petrucci from none other than Dream Theater and Liquid Tension Experiment and G3, whatever. A few things with John Petrucci that I wanted to lay out as far as, you know, not going crazy on any certain album, because I know a lot of people have opinions about which albums are better than others as far as Dream Theater goes. So this is by no means like a definitive list. This is just my opinion, and it also speaks to the kind of style that I like to play, more of a bluesy rock rather than like a metal rock. And also I like a lot of the riffs and solos that Petrucci plays that really come to that bring to mind his influences, like Steve Morse and James Hetfield from Metallica. And so for this, I decided I wouldn't look into his solo albums, his solo record, I should say, his one record, because that thing is just chock full of amazing riffs and solos. So I figured, you know, not go play in the garden and just go around for all the Dream Theater albums and Liquid Tension Experiment albums. In my opinion, those are his best work, and pick from there. And I said I wouldn't choose the same solo or riff from the same album, like a solo and riff from the same album. But you know, as it turns out, actually everything is from a different album that I chose, the 5 riffs and the 5 solos. So yeah, this is by no means, like I said, this list should be very different from other top 5 John Petrucci videos of solos you've seen, 10,000 of them on YouTube. But I think I've chosen a selection that is really different than like off the beaten path. Like, you know, Don't Shoot Me, Under a Glass Moon is not here. Breaking All Illusions I didn't include. If I did, it would be number 6, and Under a Glass Moon would probably be like number 7. But yeah, so I just I'll discuss why I chose each of the ones that I did, and then from there on, you'll listen to each solo and riff, I should say, and tell you what album it's from, and maybe even the kind of gear he used, if I know off the top of my head what kind of gear he'd used. So yeah, without further ado, this is Riffs and Solos, John Petrucci. So starting off with this first riff here, this one comes from the Black Clouds and Silver Linings album. The track is The Shattered Fortress, and this riff comes right after the guitar solo, and it's one of John Petrucci's 7-string riffs. Most of the riffs I've chosen for this video are 7-string riffs. I feel the 7-string riffs kind of allow him to branch out the most as opposed to 6-string ones. He has some great 6-string ones, but I feel like the 7-string guitar just adds a bit more vocabulary to what he can say, so to speak. So this is the riff from Shattered Fortress. Real mean, kind of reminds me a bit of Dark Eternal Night, but a little more groovy than that. I tend to like his riffs that are more on the groovy side. If you'll be able to tell with this video. So without further ado, here is the Shattered Fortress riff. Alright, so the next riff I went for a really beautiful one. This was not played on a 7-string, this is 6-string, and this is from Dream Theater's self-titled album, Dream Theater, the song being A Bigger Picture, or The Bigger Picture. I'll have the name of the song, I believe it's The Bigger Picture. And I chose this riff because it's absolutely gorgeous, huge sounding riff. Utilizes octaves to sort of give the song and the melody more emphasis toward the end of the song. Between the sort of first part of the song, the break in the second part, in the second part of the song. This is from The Bigger Picture.
You look but cannot see. Talk but never speak. You live but cannot breathe. See but don't believe. Wounds that never heal. A heart that cannot feel. A dream that's all too real. A stare as cold as steel. I've listened to the stories of resentment and disdain. I've looked into the empty eyes of anger, fear, and shame. I've taken blood from every stone and traveled every road.
That one is so beautiful. Anyway, this next one comes off of Dramatic Turn of Events. That's it. From the song Bridges in the Sky. This, in my personal opinion, is one of John Petrucci's greatest 7-string riffs. It's a great riff. The entire beginning of the song is just an absolute phenomenal 7-string riff. In my book, this takes the cake over everybody's favorite, which is the Dark Eternal Night riff. I feel like this one is better. And it's actually the riff that comes after the very first one that you hear once the song comes in, that really like dark, heavy, almost you can't hear what notes he's playing almost. So here it is, Bridges in the Sky. So this riff is off Dream Theater's latest record, The Astonishing, from the second disc, off a song that I feel like no one really talks about very much, and it's kind of an underrated song because it starts out very ambient, but it's called Heaven's Cove, and I tell you, it has one of the greatest riffs John Petrucci has ever written on it. It's played on a 7-string. It's a slower riff than the one you heard in Bridges in the Sky. It's much slower, but it really is has a lot of movement in it. And it really allows him to stretch out over the 7-string sort of extended range, and he plays the riff one way and then he plays it another way, lower on the guitar, so like almost an octave lower. You'll hear how the 7-string, how it sounds with the extended range guitar, and it's just one of the best like guitar only riffs. Like the riff you just heard and the one you're gonna hear that's number one has keyboard with it, so yeah. I'm not sure how you guys want to count that as guitar only riff or not, if that counts as a riff, but I think they do. But this one is my favorite guitar only one. I think it's one of the best riffs he's ever written. And in all fairness, The Astonishing is full of some of his best riffs, some of the best riffs he's written since Scenes from Memory. So that's just my 2 cents. So here it goes, Heaven's Cove.
Time gone by. Heaven's Cove was a wondrous sight. Once a beautiful place. Now an empty shell, like a memory that time erased.
Alright, now this last riff, number 1. So I've been going from sort of 5 to 1, from like my least to my favorite. In all fairness, they're all amazing. But number 1 comes from one of Dream Theater's first albums, Images and Words, a fan favorite, I know. Most people would say, oh, so you mean maybe Learning to Live or Under a Glass Moon, but no. Take the Time is not only my favorite song on that record, but also has one of the best riffs ever. Again, it's after the guitar solo, and it's a bit of a keyboard guitar unison thing. I believe the keyboard plays it at the same time, but it's not like one of the super fast shreddy unison pieces that I wouldn't count as a riff like that. But this has got to be one of my favorite Petrucci riffs. It's got a great bluesy groove feel to it that's, you know, a stark contrast to riffs like Bridges in the Sky and Shattered Fortress. Yeah, it's almost, you could be forgiven for thinking it's a different guitar player, which is one of the reasons why I love Petrucci and his style. It's really versatile. So here it goes. Take the Time from Images and Words. Alright, so now we move on to the solo section of solos and riffs. And of course, you know, what list would I make without guitar solos? You guys know I love just sort of solo guitar. But in all fairness, I think having the riffs on here is a good thing to have, because especially a player like John Petrucci, everybody who's a fan of him, everybody who I feel gets into him in the beginning is just a fan of like his shreddy fast solos and stuff, which, you know, fair enough. That's like his thing. But he's a mean riff writer. He's got some amazing riffs, probably some of the best in the progressive metal, genre. And I think he's overlooked for that sometimes. Everybody's like, this solo or this solo. I'm just like, yeah, where are this riff or this groove from this song? And there are so many great ones. So that's why I wanted to include that. So I hope you sort of agree with my list. At least I hope you agree that they were all really good. Anyway, now moving on to the solos, solo section. The first solo I have is off of probably the objective greatest album that Dream Theater ever made, objectively. I'm kidding, but Metropolis Part 2 Scenes from Memory has had such an amazing response from fans over the years, and no matter what album they do, it's like, not as good as Metropolis Part 2. But this solo, comes from Fatal Tragedy, and funnily enough, I was listening to Fatal Tragedy, trying to find a riff, and I heard the solo, and I'd forgotten how amazing this solo was, and I'm like, oh my god, it has everything that John Petrucci is known for. It sort of bunched into one solo. Super fast picking, chromatics, bluesy stuff, and a little tiny bit of keyboard unison, all while playing over odd time signatures, because this is that part of the song where the expansion and contraction riff is going, so it's contracting right now, so it's going from like 4, 3, 2, and 1 or whatever. So he has to put up with all that and play an amazing solo over it, and he does. So this is why I put this number 5, Fatal Tragedy, from Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from Memory. Man, that is such an amazing solo, honestly. And if you like that style of John Petrucci, that's probably one of the best solos in your book, honestly. From here on out, the solos are more of my personal taste rather than like his sort of definitive best in terms of what most people think, like Under Glass Moon and stuff. And I love all those solos. But here on out, it's more of sort of my taste and liking to see his influences in his solos. So this next one comes off of Trial of Tears from Falling Into Infinity, which was, generally seen as the worst Dream Theater album ever made, but there were a few great songs, including this. This is probably hands down the best song on the album, if I could say so. And the solo on this is pure Joe Satriani, legato lines and just beautiful sweeps, and just that hint of blues in there too, like traditional Petrucci blues and stuff. So this is definitely one of my favorites as it's on this list. Number 4, Trial of Tears from Falling Into Infinity. love the guitar tracking on that. He's got some stereo chorus thing going on with that Trial of Tears solo, and it really sounds wide, almost double tracked, but I don't think it's actually double tracked if you listen. Anyway, number 3 is definitely one that I think a lot of people forget. I hardly ever see it mentioned as far as like best bluesy type solo, like pure blues solo that Petrucci is sort of known for. A lot of people, I think, look to Breaking All Illusions as like that's like one of his greatest solos, and that is a great solo. Like I said, it'd be number 6 if it was on here. But instead of going Breaking All Illusions, I went to 6 Degrees of Turbulence on the second disc on the actual 6 Degrees track. Goodnight Kiss has an absolutely amazing, like, super long solo. The whole thing is like 3 minutes, but the ending sort of part of it, after the melodic bit, there's an insane blues part that's like pure filthy guitar, high gain, sort of his neck pickup just kind of going for it, like it's got Gary Moore written all over it kind of thing. You know, really ambient, sort of mean and dark, but you know, bluesy at the same time, obviously. And it's just got great feel for something that feels like he had his amp gain like on 10. It sounds like it was recorded with like a boogie, like, you know, dual rectifier or something like that, which for this album it actually may have been. But yeah, this is definitely my favorite solo of his in terms of just 100% like blues, like going for it. This is definitely one of them. So this is Goodnight Kiss from 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. So this second to final solo comes from the Awake album. This is the song Voices, and this is John Petrucci and his wah pedal. And no one can separate John Petrucci from his wah pedal. This is probably one of my favorite solos he's ever done with the wah. It reminds me of you're in like a club at an open jam and just you have this thing going, you have to just go for it, like 100% improvise, and this is what it sounds like, you know. But this is like what you would come up with, something like this. Obviously, none of us are John Petrucci, but this solo really has that sort of club feel. It's just like go, you know, like at the same time, like I said for the last solo, just kind of go for it, like bluesy, and of course it has the fast arpeggiated John Petrucci style picking that, you know, he's become known for. So this is also, I think, an underrated one. Like I said, my favorite Dream Theater solo as it stands. Not to spoil anything, but yeah, Voices from Awake. Alright, so for the fifth and final solo, number 1. It's not a Dream Theater solo. This is any John Petrucci thing. So, Liquid Tension Experiment, I think is some of Petrucci's best work, hands down. I mean, the whole thing is like one big jam anyway. Second album has a song called When the Water Breaks, and that song's got a bunch of solos on it. And most people would say the first solo on that, the sort of melodic one, is like his best. I've seen that on a lot of forums and YouTube videos and stuff, and I agree that's a great one too. But my favorite is actually the one later in the song, the last solo. It's sort of during a jam, and I think it's like 6/8 or 6/4 or something. I think it's 6/8, and it's got a lot of Steve Morse influence in there. And I know Steve Morse is one of John Petrucci's biggest influences as far as guitar goes. So I really like that he kind of channeled his inner Steve Morse on this solo and produced what I think is the greatest guitar solo John Petrucci has ever done. And I hope for those of you who didn't know about this solo or other solos or riffs on this list, who didn't realize how amazing they were until hearing this, I hope you realize how many amazing things Petrucci does. I mean, they're all great at the end of the day, but this is more of a personal, like what I think is his best list. And yeah, When the Water Breaks, number 3 solo, I guess you could call it, is that, for me, that's as good as it gets for John Petrucci. And yeah, absolutely amazing. So here you go. Hope you enjoy it.